this week on Days of Our Mercedes. The Silver Arrows are coming off a mediocre run down in the night of Bahrain, with Hamilton and Russell both getting 5th and 6th respectively, and missing out on any podiums and big points as they split 3rd in the Constructors' Championship thanks to Ferrari's self-destruction in Bahrain. Of course, the writing is on the wall that Mercedes is still not the best team in the sport now, with Red Bull fixing to run away with the championship after the opening race. But of course, when asking ourselves, what is the problem at Mercedes? The leader of men, Sir Lewis Hamilton, would exclaim that it is the team not listening to him, because Hamilton says he knows best with the car, and that Mercedes needs to take responsibility for not listening to his input on the car, and not listening to him and putting themselves in this hole to begin with, because Mercedes isn't feeding Lewis Hamilton's ego at every fucking waking corner. Like hell, the Mercedes fans, the homosexuals have even gone so far as to hit the panic button after one race, which led to the Silver Arrows having to issue a 3-part letter to the fan base to relax, and that they will figure it out. Of course, for the Silver Arrows, Toto Wolff also commented on the whole ordeal, saying that they expect Lewis Hamilton to come back next year, but they are opening the door to let Hamilton go to another team if they feel like Lewis can't get an 8th championship with Mercedes. Like, honestly, just looking at all this, it's just looking like this is just Michael Jordan's last year in Chicago all over again. But it's Lewis Hamilton Mercedes, because keep in mind, Lewis Hamilton's contract with Mercedes is up at the end of the season. And you honestly look at Lewis Hamilton, he already lived up to his end of the deal with Mercedes, won multiple championships with the Silver Arrows, had a great dynasty run with the Mercedes. And honestly, looking at it, Lewis Hamilton really benefits nothing staying with Mercedes. Like, I think next year Lewis Hamilton will either retire or I think he goes to a different team. Probably Ferrari, because Ferrari is gonna probably get desperate and they're fucking idiots. But of course, the Silver Arrows are still going to work on getting the car, as Lewis Hamilton once again claims that they will not be contending for wins this year. Of course, they said that last year. They were right last year. Will it be a repeat again? Or is Lewis Hamilton just trying to downplay it and trying to catch us off guard, so that they can surprise us out of nowhere? We'll have to find out later this season. So now the attention turns to our second race of the 2023 F1 season as we head to the streets of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, aka shithole country, where FIA is going to chase 65 million blood monies across the night in Saudi Arabia. At least there was no missile strikes this time, which is kind of rare. Bro, holy shit, Saudi Arabia has no fucking war going on when the sport comes to the country? Damn, who had that in their bingo card? Of course, the weekend would end up with a bit of an interesting twist during qualifying, when Verstappen would have a mechanical issue which would force him to start 15th on the grid. He also had Charles Leclerc end up getting a 10-place grid penalty for a power unit change, beep, which meant that Perez and Alonso would start on the front row. But the Silver Arrows would end up close to the front. But, of course, at the start of the race, the Silver Arrows were no match for Alonso and Perez's Red Bull, as Alonso would get the lead right off the start, until the FIA gave Alonso a 5-second penalty for starting outside his box on the left side tires. Beep. And then a few laps later, Sergio Perez would take the lead from Alonso. But Alonso would stay close, so that Alonso doesn't lose many positions when he has to serve his penalty on either a pit stop. Of course, Max Verstappen, once he got into DRS, he would make quick work of the field and would pick the field off one by one, along with Charles Leclerc, as Lewis Hamilton would struggle with speed throughout much of this race. Yes, he would get passed by both Verstappen and Leclerc. Of course, Verstappen would stay out while a lot of other drivers pitted, And Verstappen would get lucky with a timely safety car to put himself in good track position when Lance Stroll would lose his brakes on the track. Damn, that sucked for Lance Stroll too. Lance Stroll was having a really good run. He was having a top 5, top 10 run before his brake failure. That sucks for him. Damn. And of course, with Lance Stroll retiring from the race, it meant that the Silver Arrows have a golden opportunity to gain some points on Aston Martin and potentially move to second in the Constructors' Championship. Of course, during this safety car period, Alonso would make his pit stop and would serve his 5-second penalty successfully. And then Alonso would go on and remain in second place despite that serving the penalty in the pit stop. And Verstappen would end up fourth. Of course, on the restart, Perez would get away from Alonso in the field, and Russell would hold Verstappen off for a bit until Verstappen got in DRS, and then Verstappen would just scoot right on by Russell. As, yeah, the Mercedes this year are no match for those Red Bulls, as the Red Bulls look like they have a very solid car. And then the late laps, Verstappen would catch Alonso, and Alonso wouldn't defend against Verstappen, because the only time Alonso will ever defend hard against anybody will be if he's going up against Lewis Hamilton, which are things we love to see. But Alonso knows that Verstappen is the future of the sport and decided to let him go. As Verstappen in the running, thanks to a lucky safety car period and some good pit strategy, Verstappen would work his way up through the field from 15th to 2nd. But once he got to 2nd, he just could not run down Sergio Perez. And the way the closing laps were in this race, well, other than Alex Albon retiring his car from a brake failure, it was set up at the end to where between Perez and Verstappen, whoever would end up with the fastest lap bonus point would end up claiming the championship lead. As both Verstappen and Perez would exchange the fastest lap bonus point back and forth in the closing laps. As Sergio Perez, he would cross the line and would initially get the bonus point, which meant that Perez would get the win and would get the championship lead for about 10 seconds. Until Max Verstappen would cross the line, and he would end up finishing 2nd and getting the bonus point for fastest lap, which means Verstappen leaves Saudi Arabia with a 1-point championship lead over Sergio Perez, while Perez goes on to his 5th career win, and Fernando Alonso will go on and prove that Bahrain was not a flash in the pan for him and Aston Martin, as Alonso would go on and get his 100th career podium in F1 and finish 3rd in Bahrain. Or that's what we thought, until after the race, Alonso would then be given a 10-second penalty. As they claimed, Alonso did not serve his penalty correctly because of one of the crew members accidentally touching the car. And then Alonso would challenge the call, saying that he celebrated and all got the trophy on that he should be allowed to keep it, and that they served it correctly, and that was an accident. They didn't mean to touch the car. And FI was trying to back off and say, nope, rules are rules. George Russell's getting your podium. And then when it looked like the Silver Arrows were going to somehow luck their way into their first podium of the season, FI had a change of heart. Or they were visited by 3 spirits. Take your pick, folks. As they would give Alonso his podium back. So Alonso will get his 100th podium as they took his time penalty away and reinstated it. Wow, FI actually made the right call for once? Damn, who would have got that? So in the end, Russell would end up 4th and Hamilton would have another mediocre run, as Hamilton now slides into 5th in the championship, just ahead of Russell in the championship standings, as Hamilton's off to another slow start for the 2nd year in a row. And also, with Alonso's podium run, it means that Alonso now sits 3rd in the championship. And because of Lance Stroll's misfortunes, Mercedes now sits 2nd in the Constructors' Championship. So yeah, it's very interesting. I bet you Alonso probably pulled some blackmail on the FI, saying that if it was Lewis Hamilton and for Alonso's situation, they wouldn't have given Lewis a penalty. Especially since they let Lewis slide away with the jewelry on his body, despite having a jewelry ban in place. But in the meantime, during all of that, Sergio Perez gets his 5th career win. So Sergio Perez gets his 5th win of the season, as it's looking like this championship is just a two-way battle between both Red Bull drivers, of Verstappen and Perez. But the question is, can Perez actually keep up with Verstappen this season? Because this season for Perez, he'll either become Valtteri Bottas 2.0, or he'll become the second coming of Nico Rosberg. Now, whether he becomes the new Bottas or the second coming of Rosberg is yet to be seen. I don't think a lot of fans would mind Sergio Perez being the latter of the two options, especially after how bad Verstappen fucked Perez over the end last season and gave him the middle finger in Brazil last year. But yeah, maybe Verstappen has a challenge after all, but also with Perez winning, it means that George Russell's prediction of Max Verstappen winning every single race this season is indeed incorrect, as now Verstappen is 1-1. All I say to George Russell is, George, did you mean to say Red Bull would win every race this year? Because the way that car was, and especially with how challenging the track Jeddah was to pass that, and the fact that Verstappen was able to go from 15th to 2nd on that shithole sperm cells track, I think it could be plausible that Red Bull could win every race this year, maybe. Probably not. There's probably going to be a couple surprise wins in between. Maybe another win from Russell. Maybe a win or two for Ferrari if they get their shit together. Who knows? Maybe Fernando Alonso finally ends his near-decade winless streak and wins a race. Takes that next step forward. But so far, the first two races, we've seen Red Bulls go 1-2. So yeah, but the championship might be heating up to be a Perez-Verstappen championship. Now, can Perez be the hero we all need? Or will we end up with Verstappen win the 3rd straight championship? Well, tune in this season to keep finding out. If you're a Red Bull fan, enjoy this championship battle. If not, welcome to your Fuck 2023 edition.